Hare Krishna. So, welcome everyone to yet another session of Bhagavad Gita reading. I am very pleased, every week, like I come and I get this opportunity to speak on the shlokas of Bhagavad Gita. We are going shloka by shloka, still on chapter 3, and we are learning about the Karma Yoga. Although we are almost nearing towards the end of this chapter, but yes, we'll continue with that. In the last session, we read shloka number 33 and 34. So in this session, we are going to read 35 and 36. Okay. Yes, 35 and 36. Okay. So let's do a little, kind of a recap of the previous session. What did we see there? And then we can proceed to these two shlokas. Okay. So in the last session, we saw that Sri Krishna spoke about how important it is to follow the injunctions of the Vedic scriptures. Yes. And he also said that there are some people who are not able to follow these injunctions, even though they know that there are severe punishments prescribed for not following it, but still they don't follow it. And why? Why do they don't follow it? Because Krishna said they are helplessly driven by the three modes of material nature. Yes. And Arjun at that point had a question that what is the use of these rules and regulations of the shastras if they are helplessly driven, right? Anyways, they will not follow. So what is the point of having the rules and regulations in place? Correct. So to this, Krishna said that the rules and regulations they help a person to regulate their activities, basically. Okay, and by regulating the activities, the person will be free from raga and dvesha, attachment and aversion. Okay, person will become free from these two things. And then the question comes about the prescribed duties. Okay, what are the prescribed duties? So there are so many prescribed duties in Vedas, right? Can we pick and choose any of them? Is it like that? Or can we pick and choose all the rules and regulations which have been described in the Vedas? Is it possible? Say, for example, here in this case of Arjun, both violence and non-violence are given as a set of prescribed duties in the scriptures, okay, for different people. So Arjun said that I'll pick the duty of non-violence, which is practically a duty of a Brahmana. So what is the problem there, right? I'm not going to fight with my kinsmen. I'm not going to fight with my family members, right? So Arjun is actually giving all the excuses for not fighting the battle. And in this verse, Krishna says that there is a problem. Okay, there is a problem, and there is a big problem. So what is that problem? We will see. So let's read the shloka and the translation, and then we can discuss further on that. Let me share my screen. Okay. Bhagavad Gita, verse number 35, chapter number 3, goes like this. Shreyan swadharmo vigunaha paradharmat swanushthitat Swadharme nidhanam shreyaha paradharmo bhayavaha. Shreyan swadharmo vigunaha paradharmat swanushthitat Swadharme nidhayam shreyaha paradharmo bhayavaha. It is far better to discharge one's prescribed duties even though faultily rather than another's duties perfectly. Very important line. It is far better to discharge one's prescribed duties even though faultily than others' duties perfectly. Destruction in the course of performing one's own duty is better than engaging in another's duties. For to follow another's path is dangerous. It's very dangerous. That's what Sri Krishna is saying in this purport. Okay, we'll discuss this in little detail, but first let's see some of the keywords and try to understand, and then we will discuss on this. Okay, Swadharma, first of all. Okay, Krishna is saying that means one's own prescribed duties. Okay, and Viguna means even if it is executed in faulty manner. Okay, faulty manner. Even if it is executed faultily. Swadharma Viguna. Shreyan is far better. Okay, far better than what? par dharmat, then the duties mentioned for others. Okay, and so anushtitat, swa anushtitat means perfectly done. That means it is far better to perform one's own prescribed duties, even though it is done in faulty manner. Okay, but it is much better than performing duties of other people perfectly. Okay, swadharma nidhanam means better getting destroyed while performing one's own duty. Okay, why? Because Krishna is saying par dharma bhayavaha. That means performing the prescribed duties of others is dangerous. Okay, so very important shloka here, and we try to understand. That means we cannot pick and choose. Basically, this is what Sri Krishna is saying. Okay, the prescribed duties are there along with the set of rules and regulations, and as living entities, we do not have any choice that okay, I will perform this one and I will not perform that one. Okay, like that, can't do that. Okay, so what Sri Krishna is saying here, that one should discharge their own prescribed duties in full Krishna consciousness rather than discharging the prescribed duties of others. Okay, this is pretty clear. And these duties are prescribed according to one's consciousness. This is very important. Okay, so we learnt about the three modes of material nature in the last session. Right, the three modes are mode of goodness, satogun, mode of passion, rajogun, and mode of ignorance, which is tamogun. Right, and we also saw that over a period of lifetimes, okay, many lifetimes, our subtle body transmigrates from one body to another at the time of death. Right, so subtle body is mind, intelligence, and false ego. Okay, and we also saw the example of a wet clay block. Okay, that when we throw the stones or pebbles on a wet clay block, what happens? They get embedded. When you take them out, that mark is still there, and if the clay dries up like that, the mark remains on the clay. Okay, so our mind is also exactly like that, and whatever activities we do, okay, it is creating an impression on our mind, just like that pebbles create those impressions on the clay block. Okay, and according to these impressions, which are known as sanskaras, a person develops, a person is like primarily situated in one particular mode of material nature. Okay, so for example, a person may be in the mode of goodness because of the some of the past life activities or karmas that they have performed. Similarly, someone can be in the mode of passion, someone can be in the mode of ignorance, primarily in the mode of passion and ignorance or goodness. But one thing we have to remember, that every person is a mixture of these three modes of material nature. Okay, so this is a quick summarization of the last session. Okay, what we saw there. Okay, and we also learned that individual has any one of three modes of material nature in, like, predominant in them. Yes, and according to this mode, they should follow a given set of prescribed duties in the material life. Okay, and then there are another set of duties which are known as spiritual duties. Spiritual duties prescribed for someone. Okay, they are, however, given by the spiritual master. Okay, but one thing to note here, that whether material prescribed duties or spiritually prescribed duties, okay, one should never give up their prescribed duties unto death. Correct. And the best example is none other than our founder Acharya A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. His spiritual master had given him instructions that you go and preach the teachings of Lord Krishna and preachings of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in English language, okay, all around the world. So he did that till his last breath. You can easily find these videos on YouTube, like, he's lying on his deathbed. At that time also, he's translating Srimad Bhagavatam in English, okay, and one of his disciples is holding a dictaphone near his mouth, so that it gets recorded, and then they can put that purport in the Srimad Bhagavatam that we have today. Yes, so that is the spiritual prescribed duty, and it should never be given up at the time of death, whether material or spiritual. Okay, shouldn't be giving up our prescribed duties at any point. This is what is mentioned in this particular shloka. Okay, also, more importantly, one should not imitate another's prescribed duty. Okay, this is another very important point to note. Okay, for example, a brahmana who is primarily in the mode of goodness, okay, and is non-violent, and a Kshatriya is like, they are allowed to be violent, because they are administrative class, right? So an administrative class is allowed to be violent on certain occasions. For example, when they are attacked by an enemy, okay, if a kingdom is attacked by an enemy, the Kshatriya is allowed to be violent and he's allowed to fight, correct? So that is the prescribed duty of a Kshatriya. Okay, a Brahman, prescribed duty of a Brahman is that, okay, they are generally non-violent. Okay, so as such, for a Kshatriya, it is better to be defeated and vanquished on the battlefield, killed by the enemies, following the rules of violence, as it is prescribed for a Kshatriya, rather than imitating a Brahmana who is follow the prescribed duty of non-violence. Okay, so this is what is very, strongly conveyed here in this particular shloka by none other than Lord Sri Krishna. Okay, so everyone has to cleanse their heart. Basically, the idea is that everyone has to cleanse their heart, and this is a gradual process. Okay, by following the prescribed duties, gradually the hearts will be cleansed. Okay, it's not an overnight process. It's not going to be, just like that. Okay, it won't happen abruptly. Okay, sometimes it may take years. In certain cases, it may take even lifetimes. Later on in the Bhagavad Gita, Lord Sri Krishna will say, Bahunam janmanam ante gyanvan mam prapadyate vasudeva sarvamiti sa mahatma sudurlabha. Okay, which means that after many, many lifetimes, he who is in complete knowledge of me, who understands me as the Supreme Personality of Godhead, as the cause of all causes and all that is, yes, that person ultimately surrenders unto me. And then he also says that such a rare soul, such a great soul is very rare. Okay, so Mahatma Sudurlabha. So Mahatma is saying such people. Okay, so the cleansing of heart, okay, it doesn't happen overnight. It's a gradual process, a slow process. It may take years, and it takes years of practicing and following one's own prescribed duties, okay, over a period of time, and then the hearts will be cleansed. Okay, but one thing we need to understand, that once the heart is cleansed, okay, and we transcend the three modes of material nature, we cross over the three modes of material nature. Okay, so at that time, we can say that such a person is completely fixed up in devotion, completely fixed up in bhakti, in Krishna consciousness. Okay, and then once you attain that stage, at that point you can perform anything and everything, okay, under the guidance of a bona fide spiritual master. There it's no restrictions. For example, at that time a Kshatriya can act as a Brahmana, or a Brahmana can act as a Kshatriya, and so on and so forth. Okay, but before reaching that stage, we have to cleanse our heart. We have to transcend the three modes of material nature. We have to cross over these three modes of material nature. Okay, because a living entity is by default controlled by these three modes of material nature. We are under the control of these three modes of material nature. So before reaching the stage where we can perform anything and everything under the guidance of a bona fide spiritual master, we have to follow the prescribed duties and cleanse our heart first, okay, to reach that stage. So in the transcendental stage, once we have crossed over the modes of material nature, in that stage, what happens? The distinction of the material worlds, they do not apply. Okay, so we'll read from the purport. Very nice example regarding this. Srila Prabhupada is giving in his purport. For example, Vishwamitra was originally Kshatriya, but later on acted as a Brahmana, whereas Parshuram was a Brahmana, but later on acted as a Kshatriya. Right? So this is a very nice example which is given. So as long as one is on the material platform, he must perform his duties according to the modes of material nature. At the same time, he must have full sense of Krishna consciousness. So, very nice example cited by Srila Prabhupada here, that Vishwamitra was a sage, a great sage. He was a Kshatriya, okay, and then later on he became a Brahmana. And similarly, he is also citing example of Lord Parshuram. okay, who is an incarnation of one of the incarnations of Lord Vishnu, right? So he was a Brahmana, but he took up the role of a Kshatriya. Okay. So, and in transcendental stage, at that level, it is possible. Okay. But as long as we are on the material platform, we should continue to follow our prescribed duties in order to cleanse our heart. That is very, very important. So, we see here that the rules and regulations are there in the scriptures for us to follow, and then there are set of prescribed duties for us to follow. Okay, and these duties, as I said earlier, is according to the mode of material nature which is predominant within us. Okay, and these duties are meant for cleansing our heart so that we can re-establish our forgotten relationship with Krishna. Okay, that this whole purpose of the cleansing of heart and following the prescribed duties is what, so that we can re-establish our forgotten relationship with Krishna, so that ultimately at the time of death, when we are quitting the body, we will not be thinking about any nonsense. Rather, we will only be focusing on the name, forms, qualities, and pastimes of Krishna, so that we can break this cycle of birth and death and go back home, back to him. Okay, and Sri Krishna is saying that it is much better to follow one's own prescribed duties rather than one's own prescribed duties in a faulty manner rather than following someone else's prescribed duties perfectly. Okay, this is what Sri Krishna is saying. So we cannot pick and choose, that which rules to follow, which rules not to follow, which prescribed duty to follow, which not to follow. No, it doesn't happen that way. So what Arjuna was saying, that okay, I choose to be like a Brahmana, I choose to be non-violent, and I will, go to a forest, live a life of a sannyasi, mendicant, and then I will beg from door to door, and then finally I will be peaceful there. What is there in killing the kinsmen? So this is what Krishna is saying. No, this is not your prescribed duty. You are a kshatriya, you are a military man, you have to fight. And it is much better, to die fighting on the battlefield rather than following the prescribed duty of a Brahmana in a perfect way. Okay, this is what Krishna is saying. Very clear, he has made it, right? So because the whole purpose of the prescribed duties is the cleansing of the heart, so that we can finally rise above the three modes of material nature. And once we rise above the three modes of material nature, what will happen? We will be able to re-establish the forgotten relationship with Krishna. Okay, and one thing which is very important to note, that these prescribed duties are according to the modes of material nature which an individual is predominantly situated in. Okay, that means the prescribed duty of, say, for example, a Kshatriya has been prescribed because a Kshatriya is primarily in the mode of passion. Okay, he has, say, X, Y, and Z qualities. So, in order for a Kshatriya's heart to be cleansed, he has to follow certain set of duties accordingly, right? I mean, if he is following something else, then the heart won't be cleansed, right? These prescribed duties have been made according to that. Okay, so unless we act according to the duties prescribed for us, how will our hearts be cleansed? Yes. And when the heart is not clean, there is no question of loving Sri Krishna. Forget about loving him or re-establishing the forgotten relationship with him. We won't be even able to think of him, right? We won't be able to think of him in the first place. So now when Sri Krishna has answered these questions, Arjun has one another question to ask. And that is a very important question and very interesting one. And I think we all will be able to relate ourselves with that question, because it's a very, something which we'll see, okay, how it is. And this question is asked in the next verse. So we will just go to the next verse. That is verse number 36. Okay. So let's read the verse. I'll share my screen again. Verse number 36 goes like this. Arjun Uvacha अथ केन प्रयुक्तोऽयं पापं चरति पुरुषः अनिच्छन्नपि वार्ष्णेय बलादेव नियोजितः. अर्जुन उवाच अथ केन प्रयुक्तोऽयं पापं चरति पुरुषः Anikshan api varshneya baladeva niyojitah. Which means, Arjun said, O descendant of Vrishni, by what is one impelled to sinful by what is one impelled to sinful acts, even unwillingly, as if engaged by force? Yes, so very important question which is asking that a person may not be willing to perform any sinful activities. But sometimes, all of us must have gone through that situation, okay, that we know what to do, what not to do, what is right, what is wrong, but still it feels that as if by force we are, being made to do something which is not right, correct? So why is it so? Okay, this is a very important question which Arjun is asking. Okay, so we will see a few keywords here and then we will try to analyze this shloka. So first of all, Varshneya, here Arjun is actually referring to Sri Krishna as Varshneya, or descendant of Vrishni. Okay, Vrishni dynasty. Okay, Atha, then what? uh, Kena prayuktayam, that means by what is one impelled to do what? The question is that. Okay, papam charati purusha. Okay, by what is one impelled to do sinful activities? Now, is it the person doing that willingly? Anikchan, no, he's not doing willingly, okay, without desiring. Unwillingly, the person has to do that, okay. Balad eva niyojita, as if he is acted by force. Balad, that force is acting and forcefully he is being able to do those sinful activities, okay. So he's asking a question that what is that force actually, which is pulling that person out of the good activities that they are doing and then forcibly making them to do the sinful activities. Okay, so what is that force? This is the question. Okay. So now with this verse, we are entering a new section of the chapter number 3, and this will continue from this particular verse number 36 till the end of this chapter. Okay, and in this section, we are going to discuss about the ultimate enemy. Okay, which all of us have. Okay, and all of us have without exceptions. Okay, and I will not disclose that who this enemy is right now, because we will discuss in detail about that in the next verse. But then we need to understand that there is an ultimate enemy, point number 1, and here Arjun is asking that who is that ultimate enemy? Okay, who is forcing us away from the good activities which we are doing and forcing us to do sinful activities. Okay, so lot of time we have seen that, okay, that for example gossip. Okay, gossip is not good, we know that, all of us know that. Okay, but whenever we meet with our friends or maybe our colleagues in the offices, we end up doing that. Okay, in spite of knowing, as if by force we are acting in that way, right? People know that drinking is not good for your health, it's injurious for your health, and even from the spiritual point of view in the shastras it has been completely prohibited. Okay, but when people who are addicted, I mean, they just do it, right, in spite of having this knowledge that, oh, I'm not doing the right thing, but as if a force, an invisible force is acting upon them, and they just end up doing that. Correct. So these are some examples that I'm citing, and this is exactly what Arjun is asking, that who is that invisible force? What is that invisible force which is making us to do that, which is taking us away from the from the good activities that we are doing and making us do the sinful activities? Okay, as if he's trying to forcibly pull us out, right? So this is what Arjun is asking. So we'll read from the purport here. A living entity as part and parcel of Supreme is originally spiritual, pure and free from all material contaminations. Yes. So we are all part and parcels of Sri Krishna. Later on in the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna will say, Mame vamsho jiva loke jiva bhuta sanatana manasasthani indriyani manasasthani indriyani. Just forgetting that verse. Mame vamsho jiva loke jiva bhuta sanatana Manasasthani Indriyani. Okay, I'll just look that up, but yeah. Okay, but anyways, yeah. So here Krishna is saying, Mame Vamsho Jivuloke. Okay, he says that all the Jivatmas, okay, are Mama Ansha. They are my parts and parcels. Okay, so here Krishna is called Pavitra, like he's all pure, right? Another name of Krishna is Pavitra, which means all pure. Okay, so as his part and parcels, all the living entities, which are none other than us, we are also all pure. Okay, but then we see that we are contaminated. Okay, our consciousness is contaminated. Okay, we know that, right? I mean, it's nothing there to explain about it. Okay, so how is it that a pure entity has become contaminated? Okay, how is it possible? Okay, it is not the constitutional nature of the soul to be contaminated. Okay, but it has become contaminated, even though it's part and parcel of Krishna, who is all pure. So spirit soul is also all pure, but we have become contaminated somehow. So how is it? We will see. Okay, so that's what is given here. See, so ideally we need to understand that, as I said earlier, a spirit soul is uncontaminated. It's free from all contaminations. Okay, it is Satchidanand Vigraha. Okay, since Krishna is Satchidanand Vigraha, means he has a pure, blissful and full of knowledge, a form which is pure, which is completely blissful and completely full of knowledge. Okay, Satchidanand Vigraha. So as his part and parcels, we are also Satchidanand Vigraha. Okay, but we'll see what Srila Prabhupada is saying here in the purport. Therefore, by nature, he is not subjected to the sins of this material world. But when he is in contact of the material nature, he acts in many sinful ways without hesitation and sometimes even against his will. Yes? So, this is what Prabhupada is saying. Okay, as soon as the spirit soul comes in contact with matter, okay, automatically the consciousness becomes impure or contaminated. Yes? So, this is a very important point to note. Okay. So, for example, just we'll try to cite an example of a raindrop. Okay, when a raindrop is falling from the clouds, okay, at that point of time in the sky, it is completely pure. It is not contaminated by anything. Okay, but as soon as it falls on the ground, what happens? It becomes impure. It mixes with dirt and mud and everything, and it becomes impure. We are not able to see its pure nature. Okay, it has to be purified. Yes, once it is purified, then we'll be able to see the pure nature. But when it is not purified on the ground, it is contaminated. So same thing happens here. When the spirit soul, which is completely pure, comes in contact with material nature, it becomes impure, right? And one very important point to note here or understand here is that the consciousness of the spirit soul becomes impure. Okay, the spirit soul in itself is part and parcel of Sri Krishna. It cannot be impure. Okay, the symptom of a spirit soul is consciousness, and that consciousness becomes impure on the contact of material nature. Okay, this is very important point to understand. Okay, so when a person's consciousness becomes impure, they commit sinful activities. Okay, even though they know that, okay, this is not right, but still they are committing the sinful activities because the consciousness has become impure. Okay, but willingly committing sinful activities is one thing. Okay, here the question is that unwillingly a person is committing sinful activities. They don't want to do it, but then somehow by some invisible force they are forced to commit sinful activities, right? So that's what the question is. What is that force? Okay, we'll continue. Although the living entity sometimes does not want to act in sin, he is still forced to act. Sinful actions are not, however, impelled by the super soul within, but they are due to another cause, as Lord explains in the next verse. Okay, so as if we see that, okay, the spirit soul is forced to act in a sinful way. Okay, as if there are these iron filings and then there is a magnet. Automatically, the iron filings will get attracted to the magnet. Okay, so similarly, we are naturally getting attracted to perform those sinful activities. It is like that, something similar to like that. Okay, so is pulled towards the sinful activities, just like iron filings are pulled towards the magnet. Okay, now the question is, who is that force? Is it the super soul which is in our heart, or Paramatma who is seated in our heart, or is it the impressions of our past lives? Okay, in the last session we discussed that every activity that we do, it creates an impression on the mind, which are known as sanskaras, right? So is it the Paramatma who is sitting in the heart? Is he responsible? Is he that force which acts and pulls us away from the good activities and makes us do the sinful activities? Or is it the sanskaras that we have acquired over several lifetimes? They are forcing us to do such an activity. So one thing is for sure, that it cannot be the Paramatma, it cannot be the super soul, right? Because super soul is an expansion of Sri Krishna, and Sri Krishna is all merciful, he is all pure, and we all are his part and parcels. We have seen that. Mame vamsho jivaloke jiva bhuta sanatana, right? So then, is it the past life impressions? Are they doing it in any way? So the past life impressions are, they also cannot do much, right? Because they are dull matter, right? Dull matter cannot pull a person like this, forcefully to do something. So what is it which is making a person uh, you know who's basically pulling a person from the path, from the right path, a person who is following, say, the right path and performing some good activities, and then this particular invisible force is forcing them to do something very sinful? Okay, what is that? Is it an entity, or what is that? What is that invisible force? Okay, this question will be answered by Sri Krishna in the next verse, so let's see that in the next lecture. Okay, so thank you so much all for being with me, and I know there might be some questions. Okay, so important thing that all of you, those who have some questions, people who are watching these videos regularly, please feel free to ask your questions in the comment section below. Okay, I'll try to go through them. I'll try to answer them, and even if I am, not getting time to answer immediately, maybe in due course I will definitely answer them. Okay, that is point number one. Those who want to interact with me in a more personalized way, at a more personalized level, we have a WhatsApp group. Okay, so interested folks can join the WhatsApp group. The link we have provided in the description box below. Okay, so please click on that link. You will be made to join a WhatsApp group, and there I am also part of that group. So whatever questions you have and the follow-up questions you have, you can just ask me. It will be a more personalized interaction. Okay, and if I feel at any point that a question which you have asked is very common question, a generic question in the minds of many people, okay, then I will try to make a video out of that. Okay, so that's one thing. And second thing is, we also have an Instagram handle which is in the name of Abhinava Gauranga. Okay, so here we keep posting some nice quotes or short reels. Some reels are of Srila Prabhupada himself. Okay, so this will continuously keep you giving the small doses of spirituality, okay, throughout the day. So I have been repeatedly saying this, that like, just as we need to eat multiple times in a day, we need to drink water multiple times in a day. Similarly, these spiritual doses are required uh, multiple times in a day. It may not be long, 1 hour or 30-minute session, not like that. Just 30 seconds, 1 minute, okay, to keep you spiritually surcharged. Otherwise, Maya is very, very strong. She can simply drag you back into the material world just like that. Okay, if we are not conscious, if we are not consciously making an effort, okay, to walk this path of spirituality. Okay, so my humble request that please follow that Instagram handle, and yeah, keep yourself spiritually surcharged and keep asking questions. Okay, I'll try my best to answer them, and we will continue from verse number 37 in the next week. Okay, till then, Hare Krishna.